Hi everybody, this is Amy Mesny from Teaching Ideas for You. You can connect with me on TPT, Teachers Pay Teachers. I have a Facebook page, an Instagram page. I'm on Pinterest, YouTube, and I also have a blog. But I'm glad that you're here today to connect with me for my Facebook Live series on Mastery Grading. So I'd like to give you a little bit about myself. I come from a family of teachers. My grandma was a music teacher. My older brother is a teacher. My younger sister is a music teacher. So we have a lot of people to talk teaching shop with. And so one thing that my brother and I talked about this summer was mastery grading. And he and I, although we run our classrooms a little bit differently, what we discovered from talking shop was that we actually do a lot of the same things. And so we talked about it and we formulated the process that we use and why it's successful. So I wanted to bring that to you and show everybody, a method that's pretty easy to do, and it actually will reduce your teacher grading load. And then it helps to get students engaged and responsible for their own learning. So that's really the benefit. And so the goal that we all have for as teachers, I think, is that you want the teacher or the students to be engaged in their own learning instead of you having to constantly spoon feed them or explain to them why it's important for them to learn. So mastery grading is all about how to plan your lessons out so that students are engaged, so that students do take ownership of their workload and their learning. So let's talk about how that happens. So what are the benefits of mastery grading? So let's start with that. I'll review. One, you are focused on the standards to master. What are your objectives? What is it that the kids have to learn? And of course, with the way teaching has evolved, there's more and more emphasis on knowing the standards, focusing on the standards, and that's all mastery grading does. You start with your end in mind. What is it that the kids have to know? So this will help you stay focused on those objectives and get the kids focused on those objectives too. Another thing is that it makes more efficient use of teacher time and class time. And I know in our school, and I'm sure in your school, class time is really sometimes at a premium. You have so many interruptions. In Florida, we have so much testing that we lose a lot of class time. And so in teacher groups, I've seen people asking, well, I don't have time to check homework. I don't have time to keep going over all this stuff. So if you use mastery grading as a process, you cut out a lot of the stuff that it really isn't necessary. It makes you more efficient. Or you keep the homework, but you're more efficient in how much class time you're spending on it, and actually in how you're using the homework too. So what is some basic ideas of, oops, somehow I lost a slide. So how does mastery grading work? So mastery grading, and I have a yellow cat who's gonna come say hi, but mastery grading is gonna divide all your classroom activities, all your student learning activities into either compliance activities or they're going to be mastery activities. And so what you have to determine is this assignment to help students learn the objective, or is this assignment for me to determine what their mastery level is? So you're dividing everything into those two categories. So some examples of compliance. I call them the 3 Ps. Compliance activities are all those things that as a teacher, you need the students to do in order to be successful. So you want the students to do it, but you and I both know that it can be really difficult to get students to do things if they don't want to do it. So the 3 Ps are you want them to pay attention, you want them to practice, and you want them to participate. So again, if they do these 3 things, it's going to increase their learning. But how can you get them to do it? That's the question. So if you think of your class, most of the things that you do in class are going to be compliance activities because you're doing lessons to build their knowledge, you're practicing to build their knowledge so that you can get to the mastery activities. Mastery assignments, again, there's not going to be as many of them. It's your summative assessments, your test, projects, maybe research projects, writing activities. Some activities can be formative activities, but you might use them as a middle ground summative. Like think of a quiz that you might give halfway through a long unit to double check where students are. So that quiz could be used as a summative, even though technically it's not a final activity. So then how can you increase engagement using the mastery grading? So again, let's go back to those 3 P's. If you can get your students to pay attention, they're going to be better at learning the material. If you can get them to practice the material and understand what it is they don't understand and correct their misunderstanding, they're going to learn more. Then if you get them to participate in class, talking in small groups over a concept, answering questions, taking a risk on things that maybe they're not sure if they understand or not. All of those activities are engagement activities, but they're also going to lead to the students increasing their knowledge. So that's really the focus of mastery grading, is to get them to do those engagement activities so that it helps them to learn their new skills, master the objectives, and then when they get to that summative assessment, they're going to be fine. So the trick in mastery grading is you need to prove to students that if they do those things, if they participate, pay attention, practice, do the homework, do the classwork, that they'll succeed. Because what you find with your students, I'm sure, as I found with my students, as my brother found with his students, is that if kids think they're going to fail anyway, they don't bother. And I can understand that. I mean, if I'm going to go through all this work on something that's hard and maybe I don't understand and I'm going to fail anyway, I mean, I may as well not put the effort out to start with. So what you have to do then is you have to get kids to understand that it's okay to take that risk, that you're not going to fail the practice. So it's okay to do that homework. It's okay to do this assignment because you're not going to look stupid if you try it. And that's really the whole goal. So another part of mastery grading is that it gets kids to see that if you practice, it's not going to affect your grade as much. But the trick for that is that you can't grade everything. That's how it reduces your teacher workload. With mastery grading, the front load work is more. What you're going to spend a lot of time on is planning out that unit. Do you have a lesson? Do you have practice? Do you give the kids feedback on that practice? Because if they don't have immediate feedback, they don't know if they've got it or not. If you're collecting it all up, taking it home to grade it, you've got 6, 7 classes depending on your schedule. Some nights you're exhausted. You've got planning to do. You left school late. You don't always get that stuff graded. So now kids have turned in work. They don't know how they did. They don't know if they understood it or not, and you move on. So at that point, you've lost a whole bunch of kids because they don't know where they are. They assume they got it right because they didn't get their thing back yet. You're exhausted because you don't want to grade all that stuff. And so then the kid who did the practice and did it wrong and now gets an F on their work says, well, why did I bother? Because I'm going to fail anyway. So mastery grading, instead, you're scoring work. So there's a difference between scoring work and grading work. And that's the topic for tomorrow, is what is the difference between scoring and grading? Because what we do as teachers is grading. But mastery grading moves most of the activities to be scoring. So if you think of this, you want the kids to score their own work. They need to analyze their work. They need to recognize, I know this, or, oh, I didn't quite understand that. Because you can't wait till the summative test to find out that they didn't understand anything. But if you grade everything, they're waiting for you to tell them what they know and don't know. What you need them to do is to figure out for themselves, what do I need help with, so that they can tell you what they need help with. And then you can use that to differentiate. You can use that to plan activities. You can see that they didn't get it and you have to reteach it. So in the end, the mastery grading, once you get kids to buy into it, this process will make your workload as a teacher a lot easier, because the students are going to be guiding you with what they need. And you're not going to be slugging work home all the time, because you're going to be quickly reviewing it in class. The kids are going to score it, and then you're going to just mark that down and reward them for participating. So they're no longer going to fail on this practice, which means they're not going to do the practice, which means they're going to fail the test anyway. They're going to fail the test, they're going to fail the class, then they're going to misbehave, and it's a big cycle. So you want to break the cycle. So I'm so happy that you guys could come, and this is just a really quick overview. And like I said, this week we're going to go through mastery grading step by step, because I wanted to really break it down for you so that you could understand why it's beneficial. So, and I will tell you, just as from a classroom standpoint, my brother's had a lot of success with this. They tend to move all the kids who won't do anything in other teachers' classes to his class because the kids succeed. And I had the same situation with my class. I would have that kid that everybody would say, oh, he'll never do work. You can't get him to do anything. It doesn't happen. It's not magic. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. But once you can get those kids to see that their effort's going to be rewarded, and then they get to the final test and they see that their effort has led to success, those behavior problems lessen, there's more engagement, it ends up making your classroom just smoother across the board, and you end up with more success. So I hope you join me tomorrow. Tomorrow we're talking about grading versus scoring. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about the difference between direct instruction and formative instruction and why you need to use both. And then Friday, we're going to talk about how this process makes it easier for you to differentiate your classroom, because that's another big thing right now for teachers. I know a lot of us are evaluated on, you know, are you differentiating for students? Like I kind of hit on, mastery grading will have the kids telling you what they need to be differentiated. So it's just a great system to put in place. And I hope you can join me tomorrow. If you have any questions, you know, just drop them in the links. And I hope that this was informative for you. Again, my name is Amy Mesny from Teaching Ideas for You by Amy Mesny. And you can find me on most social media platforms and Teachers Pay Teachers. Thanks for coming.